I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
And we're BrainStorm Acres.
And this morning we're going to do a taste test.
Delicious peas.
One of my favorite veggies.
Hey folks, Irene went out in the garden and harvested some peas this morning. We got some of the first Essayons early peas of the year. In fact, the very first ones. So we're going to try doing a taste test. We have some fresh peas from our Johnny's peas and from Essayons family garden peas. So we're going to try them.
Right. I've been mentioned in a couple of other videos that we've been noticing quite a difference between the plants, and that makes sense. Every time you grow a slightly different type of pea, you get a slightly different type of pea pod. And the Essayons peas tend to be a little bit longer than the Johnny's, although I wouldn't say that it's necessarily like written in cement that they're all the same length. But I definitely can see a difference. The mice seem to like Johnny's peas a lot better than Essayons peas, and I think that has to do with the fact that the Essayons ones are taller and are not producing any peas on the bottom of the plant. So they're not as enticing to little short mice, whereas Johnny's produces peas from the ground up, and so the mice really like that, and actually they've done quite a bit of damage to the Johnny's peas.
Yeah, the really great thing about, or what looks to be a really great thing about Rob's peas is that it looks like they're all going to come off at the same time, or very nearly the same time, which is fairly typical of a more commercial pea.
Right. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. There are certain types of crops that are just designed to come off pretty much all at the same time for picking purposes. And, you know, if you were, say you were Amish and you were going to can all your peas for the entire year, it would be really handy to have them all come off in a week or two rather than having to pick them over 6, 8, 10 weeks. It's just, it makes it crazy when you're trying to can things.
Now the great thing about the Johnny's peas is that we can get about a handful or 2 handfuls a day, which means we can have absolutely garden fresh peas every single day if we want. The fabulous thing about Rob's peas is it looks like they're going to all come off more or less at one time, which means all we need to do is sit down and shell them out and can them up.
Right, right. So we haven't tasted them yet though. We've been eating the Johnny's peas for a couple of weeks, and the snow peas. Been eating those lots and lots. But time to taste them and see if we can tell a difference in flavor, because sometimes there's not much of a difference, and sometimes it's really subtle, and sometimes it's pretty dramatic. So time to taste them.
We're going to give them a try. Now is this Rob's or is this Johnny's?
This is Rob's, and one of the things I always try and do when I do peas, I know some people like to really let them grow quite large, but I'm really sensitive to the fact that a lot of peas get starchy when they get really large. So I prefer, like when we buy frozen peas, we always get what they call early sweet peas or something like that are smaller, and that's just what I prefer.
Now I have 3 peas in my hand.
Right.
I'm going to try tasting one at a time. That's a pretty good pea.
Mm-hmm. A very good pea. So we just split that evenly.
She shares well.
Sometimes. Depends on what it is. Chocolate, not so much.
Now Johnny's peas are a little bit larger right now. Rob's peas were a little smaller. We may be picking them a little early, but it tastes pretty good.
Yeah, well, I'd rather pick them early than late. I learned that multiple years ago that old peas get starchy, and I don't like that flavor.
There's a difference in taste.
Yeah, but they're both very good.
I love eating peas raw.
Yeah, me too. It's one of my favorite veggies.
So what do you think, Irene?
There's definitely a difference in flavor. Essayons peas taste a little greener, if you understand what I mean. They actually taste more green, but they're both sweet. They're both tender.
Very tender. Now we've had some problems growing peas here on the homestead.
I got them in early like I needed to this year. If I get them in too late, the heat sometimes just crushes them really quickly. This year we've had a very
Unusual.
bizarre spring, and I think a lot of people have. It's been back and forth between hot and cold. I mean cold, when I say cold I mean we got snow just not like 2 weeks ago. So peas are not particularly susceptible to frost, so we weren't too concerned about that, but it just slows things down. Now the last couple of days it's been up in the 80s.
But they're really sensitive to hot weather.
Yeah.
They basically stop producing when it gets hot.
My goal this year was to get a pea harvest, enjoy it, whether we had enough to can it or not, and then take those peas out of there and put something else in behind them.
Now it's really important to be able to try these side-by-side taste tests when you're trying new varieties, especially when you don't know anything at all about one of them. So in this case, we didn't know what Rob's peas were going to taste like, but they taste really good. Now we actually have tried these Johnny's peas before, but it's been probably 4 or 5 years because we used some specific trellising that we have that folds up and we can stretch out on the bed. We haven't used that in at least 4 or 5 years, maybe longer than that.
Right. Well, when I was using the Feisty, you don't need trellising. So that was the big advantage to them, is they're self-supporting and they form this kind of network of tendrils that hold themselves up, and they're a short plant. But because we knew that both early peas and Essayons peas, Johnny's peas and Essayons early peas needed to be trellised, I got that in as soon as I could. Not quite as early as I should have this year, but oh well.
Yeah, we worked really hard getting that bed amended early, when basically as soon as it was thawed out enough to start working the soil. So we got that bed amended and ready to go. And as Arlene said, she got the trellising up quickly.
This is our giant experiment of 2019, checking to see what looks like it'll work. And of course, you really can't make a total judgment call based on 1 year. We're trying to find plants that are pretty flexible. Like the pak choi that I grew this year was specifically chosen because it's as bolt resistant as you can get and still be a cabbage sort of a plant, you know. And so far, cross the fingers, it's worked really well. We had more pak choi for dinner last night.
Well, thanks for coming along on this experimental taste test of the Johnny's peas and Rob's Essayons family garden peas. I'm happy with both of them.
Me too. Me too. They're both delicious. They're a different flavor, but that's okay. I mean, there's lots of things we grow that are different flavors, so it's like having 2 different varieties of tomatoes. They always taste different.
We'll see you later.
Okay. See you on the next one. Bye. Do we want to do an intro and yes?
Yes.
We didn't do it. Jack's like, oh, you guys done yet?